ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਕਈ ਸਾਰੇ ਭਖਦੇ ਮੁੱਦੇ ਬਣੇ ਹੋਏ ਹਨ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਚਰਚਾ ਦਾ ਵਿਸ਼ਾ ਵੀ ਹਨ। ਦੱਸ ਦਈਏ ਕਿ ਹਾਲ ਹੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਭਾਰਤ ਅਤੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਆਪਸੀ ਸੰਬੰਧ ਖਰਾਬ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਹਨ। ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਖਬਰਾਂ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਆ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਹਨ। ਇਸ ਦੇ ਚੱਲਦਿਆਂ ਬ੍ਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ MP ਮਨਿੰਦਰ ਸਿੱਧੂ ਦੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਰੱਖੀ ਗਈ, ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਤਾਜ਼ਾ ਹਾਲਾਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਤੇ ਚਰਚਾ ਦਾ ਵਿਸ਼ਾ ਬਣੇ ਹੋਏ ਮੁੱਦਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ। ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ MP ਮਨਿੰਦਰ ਸਿੱਧੂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ MP ਰੂਬੀ ਸਹੋਤਾ ਤੇ MP ਸ਼ਫਕਤ ਅਲੀ ਵੀ ਪਹੁੰਚੇ ਅਤੇ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਫ੍ਰੈਂਕੋ ਵੀ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਹੋਏ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਪੱਤਰਕਾਰਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਪੁੱਛੇ ਗਏ ਸਵਾਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਵਾਬ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਗਏ। ਬ੍ਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਦੇ ਸਪੈਂਸਰ ਬੈਂਕੁਏਟ ਹਾਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੁੱਧਵਾਰ ਦੁਪਹਿਰ ਬ੍ਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਈਸਟ ਤੋਂ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਆਫ ਪਾਰਲੀਮੈਂਟ ਮਨਿੰਦਰ ਸਿੱਧੂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ। ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਨਵੀਨਤਾ, ਵਿਗਿਆਨ ਅਤੇ ਉਦਯੋਗ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਫ੍ਰੈਂਕੋਇਸ ਫਿਲਿਪ ਸ਼ੇਪੀਨ ਪਹੁੰਚੇ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਨਿੱਘਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ। ਇਸ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਬ੍ਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਨਾਰਥ ਤੋਂ MP ਰੂਬੀ ਸਹੋਤਾ ਅਤੇ ਬ੍ਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਸੈਂਟਰ ਤੋਂ MP ਸ਼ਫਕਤ ਅਲੀ ਵੀ ਪਹੁੰਚੇ। ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਅਦਾਰਿਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਪਹੁੰਚੇ ਪੱਤਰਕਾਰਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਨੂੰ ਕਈ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਵਾਲ ਕੀਤੇ ਗਏ। शुरुआत विच मनिंदर सिद्धू वालों सारिਆਂ ਦਾ स्वागत किया गया।
I want to thank you for taking the time to join us here today as we welcome our Minister of Innovation, Industry and Science, our Honourable Minister François-Philippe Champagne, and of course our Chief Government Whip, and many of you know MP for Brampton North, Ruby Sahota. And so it's nice that you guys came. We've got a lot of updates to provide you, but maybe we'll go around the table and answer some questions you may have on some of the things that we've been working on here in Brampton, on industry, on growing our economy, on supporting families, because these are the issues that matter most to Canadians. And of course, public safety is an important topic here in Brampton that we will be happy to touch on. So.
ਬ੍ਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਈ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਮੁੱਖ ਸਵਾਲ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਅਤੇ ਭਾਰਤ ਦੇ ਆਪਸੀ ਸੰਬੰਧਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਕੀਤੇ ਗਏ, ਜਿਸ ਤੇ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਨੇ ਜਵਾਬ ਦਿੰਦਿਆਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਲਈ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨਸ ਦੀ ਸੁਰੱਖਿਆ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ। ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਹਿੰਦਾ ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ, ਭਾਵੇਂ ਉਹ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਭਾਈਚਾਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਸੰਬੰਧ ਰੱਖਦਾ ਹੋਵੇ, ਉਹ ਸੁਰੱਖਿਅਤ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ।
You know, there's a criminal investigation that is taking place, as it should. But at the same time, we would expect that services to be provided to Canadians, whether on one side of the ocean or the other side, would continue uninterrupted, because what we want to do is to go to the bottom of this, to understand what happened, and that's why you have law enforcement agencies which are investigating the crimes. But for the vast majority of people, obviously you don't want them to be impacted in terms of services while the investigation continues. Those which have committed criminal activities, those who have committed crimes, will be brought to justice. And I hope that the message that the community here today is a message of support. We have heard you. I think if there is one sentence, if I had to write the article, I would say the government heard you, because the stories that you reported, the allegations that came out, the violent crimes that we had seen, the increase. Now, as a country, we understand a bit more the genesis of these crimes and what happened really. Particularly, we've seen in places like Brampton and in the community, in the South Asian community. So I would think there should be, we should separate the criminal investigations that are going to be taking place from the services that you're talking, whether it's services for passports and other type of services. On both sides, I would say both the Canadian government, certainly on our side, we will continue to provide obviously the same level of services, and I would hope that the Indian government will do the same, because like you said, there's more than 1 million Canadian, I think it's 1.3 million Canadian of Indian origin, and we know that there's a lot of trade, there's a lot of travel, there's a lot of activities going on between Canada and India. And I would hope that what's happening on that front would continue uninterrupted, because what we focus now is on criminal activities, and those which have perpetrated crime be investigated and be brought to justice. That's our commitment.
ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਏ ਹੋਏ ਅੰਤਰਰਾਸ਼ਟਰੀ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀ ਵੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਚਰਚਾ ਦਾ ਵਿਸ਼ਾ ਬਣੇ ਹੋਏ ਹਨ। ਇਸ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਅੰਤਰਰਾਸ਼ਟਰੀ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਸਵਾਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਰਗੇ ਮੁਲਕ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਸਕਾਰਾਤਮਕ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਪ੍ਰਣਾਲੀ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰਬੰਧਨ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਸੀਆਂ ਲਈ ਸੰਤੁਲਿਤ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ, ਜੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਆ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹਨ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਲਈ ਵੀ ਅਤੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਉਣਾ ਹੈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਲਈ ਵੀ। ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਅੰਤਰਰਾਸ਼ਟਰੀ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀਆਂ ਲਈ ਜੌਬ ਮਾਰਕੀਟ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ।
I can understand you send your children across, the world to study, and I would say Canada has always been a big magnet for talent. I think we are blessed. Canada is one of the few, I don't know if you realize that, but if you look around the G7, I was just at the G7 meeting recently, Canada is probably one of the few G7 countries where immigration is seen as a net positive, that it enriches our society, that it has brought some of the best talent, some of the best minds we have. You go in colleges, you go in university, you look in a research lab. I'm always proud to see the diversity you find, the young women that came to study here, the researchers that have left their country to come here, people who have decided to take a job in Canada. Now, what we needed to do is to have a balanced approach, to make sure that Canadians see our immigration system as one of the probably a great success of Canada. If you look at around the Commonwealth or any G7 country, I would say our immigration system is seen as best in class. I mean, we welcome delegation from countries from all over the world to understand how did Canada do it. Because if you look at how people view immigration, it's positive.
People are asking, where are the opportunities for our youth? Where's the opportunities for our future? And so the example the minister gave with MDA, federal investments are going to allow roughly 500 good-paying engineering jobs, right? And that's important for our community. The Lululemon example is going to bring roughly 1,500 jobs when that facility is open. Chrysler is obviously hundreds of jobs at the Stellantis plant down the street. And so we're doing what it takes to ensure that the jobs stay in our community. And we're also bringing more, because as you know, Brampton is the fastest growing community in Canada. We need to continue bringing that industry and the jobs here to Canada.
ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਬਰ ਜਨਾਹ ਅਤੇ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੈ, ਜਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਵਾਲ ਕੀਤੇ ਗਏ। ਇਸ ਤੇ ਐਮਪੀ ਮਨਿੰਦਰ ਸਿੱਧੂ ਨੇ ਜਵਾਬ ਦਿੰਦਿਆਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਨੂੰ ਰੋਕਣ ਲਈ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਕਈ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਯਤਨ ਕੀਤੇ ਗਏ ਹਨ। ਵੱਧ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਜੇਲ੍ਹਾਂ ਬਣਾਈਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ ਹਨ, ਸਕੈਨਰਸ ਲਗਾਏ ਗਏ ਹਨ, ਜੁਰਮਾਨੇ ਵਧਾ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਗਏ ਹਨ। ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਐਮਪੀ ਰੂਬੀ ਸਹੋਤਾ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਕਾਨੂੰਨ ਹਨ ਅਤੇ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਤੱਕ ਕਿ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਵਾਰ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਲੋਕਲ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਏਜੰਸੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਫੰਡਿੰਗ ਵੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ।
The issue of safety, the issue of security has never been at the forefront like I see today. When I grew up, I can tell you my neighborhood, people were leaving their door open, unlocked. We've gone a long way from that. But no one in this country should feel unsafe in any street and in any community. And that's why this is something that we take very seriously, that we've been working with all the law enforcement agencies to make sure that we have the tools in a toolbox to face the different reality that we have now in 2024.
And if I may comment on Bill C-75, since there's a lot of misinformation out there. Bill C-75 actually increased penalties. For example, I'll give you shoplifting, maximum sentences for shoplifting are under the highway traffic offense. It was 6 months before that. Bill C-75 made it 2 years less 2 days. For repeat offenders in intimate partner violence, we've made sure it's not as easy to get out on bail. So there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I hope that as journalists that we continue asking the right questions, because we're happy to answer them, because there's a lot of tools in place. I know Ruby wants to comment.
I'd add to that too, just recently for auto theft in particular, because it's been such a large issue in the GTA. For those criminals that are using young juveniles in orchestrating their crimes, they can face up to 14 years in prison now. That's an increase that we've also just put in place. So we've increased a lot of penalties, but it's about getting to that penalty as well, right? So we're seeing that in prisons right now, 75% that those that are waiting in prison are waiting trial. So we haven't even, the process is not working. The process is broken somewhere. And in order to deflect from that, I find that many people are finding it easy to pin everything on the criminal code. But in order to apply the criminal code, you've got to first investigate, you've got to arrest, you've got to have good judges that can recognize people that will be a risk to society, because nothing under our criminal code prevents a judge from holding somebody if they feel they'll be a threat to the public. So judges should be doing their job. And then we need to make sure that our Crown prosecutors, everyone is out there making sure the evidence is presented, that the trial takes place, and that we can get to a conviction, right? So that whole process needs to work.
ਅਖੀਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਐਮਪੀ ਮਨਿੰਦਰ ਸਿੱਧੂ, ਐਮਪੀ ਰੂਬੀ ਸਹੋਤਾ ਅਤੇ ਐਮਪੀ ਸ਼ਫਕਤ ਅਲੀ ਨੇ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਹੋਣ ਲਈ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕੀਤਾ ਅਤੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹਰ ਮਹੀਨੇ ਬ੍ਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ.
There's a lot of positive work that's happening on the ground, even when you talk to the city and the mayor. Like there's so many investments and so many openings. I really see that Brampton and Canada is at that point, pivotal point, where we have the resources, underground and above ground, to unlock so much potential. And the investments that Minister Champagne has made over the last several years are going to be the key to that unlocking. So, you know, I think we need to talk more about that. We constantly talk about the negative that's happening, but we never talk about the positive that's happening. So I just want to thank you, Minister, for coming down and sharing some of that with us.
When I hear that our opposition leader, Pierre Poilievre, he wants to show Canada is broken and everything is kind of screwed up. But when you see here, Honda is making historic $15 billion investment, auto investment in Canada. He just talked about Doe making historic investments, Stellantis, Volkswagen. Those businesses, those CEOs, they don't know how to run the businesses and where to invest? Sure, because that the policies and environment, the skills and minerals, or every ingredients we have so good here in Canada because of our policy and because of this minister's cold call who brought like $15 billion investment here in Canada, that this is a Canada we'll live in. And I think, Minister, we need you more here in Brampton that to talk about this.
ਬ੍ਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਤੋਂ ਕੈਮਰਾਮੈਨ ਰੀਤਿੰਦਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਗਰੇਵਾਲ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੁਰਜੀਤ ਕੌਰ ਦੀ ਖਾਸ ਰਿਪੋਰਟ ਹਮਦਰਦ ਟੀਵੀ ਦੇ ਲਈ.